The lighting of the Christmas tree symbolizes the official commencement of the season in Liberia. As we already know, Christmas is that time of the year when we share our love and warmth with families and friends. We must all endeavor to extend our happy hands this year in order to show how much we care and charity to our neighbors. As the good old Bible, the book, teaches us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. This, the Bible says, is the foremost of all God's commandments. So, whatever superficial petition that has prevented us from coming together as people should be dispensed with during these festive seasons. Liberia has weathered many storms, including most recently the harsh consequences of the COVID-19 crisis. Although we aren't yet out of woods together, we have managed to lessen the calamity experienced by
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at the political turbulence in the CPP, that's the collaborating political parties, and also President Weah's Christmas message. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Joining me tonight to discuss this very important topic, I have on the phone joining us from Monrovia, Chief Political Analyst of FOL, Mr. Wilmot Kunney. Mr. Kunney, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Happy to be here.
Great. Also want to welcome our policy analyst, Mrs. Carl Famula. Carl, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
We also want to welcome our FOL political analyst, the guy from Waplo Institute in Kehleboe, Mr. Mohammed Sherif. Mr. Sherif, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Dennis, it's always good to be here. Thank you.
Joining us as our guest analyst here is Mr. Kehleboe Gongloe, the guy who eats, drink, and sleep statistics. Kehleboe, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
My pleasure, Dennis.
And we also want to say there is a special Christmas message from the president. Before we start the show, we want to play that. Someone say the same way Mr. Trump used to love Twitter, the president uses his pulpit at the Fokeklan Church and also his studio to tell us some important messages. Take a listen.
Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new king's born today. A man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. Hey, my Christmas on your, my Christmas on your ya, my Christmas on your ya, my Christmas on your ya. Yeah, my Christmas can't tell your Christmas, my Christmas on you too. Yeah, yeah, Merry Christmas and God bless your Liberian people. Yeah, yeah, enjoy your Christmas.
So, Merry Christmas, Mr. Sherif, Call, Kehleboe, Mr. Kunney, my Christmas on your ya.
My on you too.
Okay. All right, that's our tradition. So let's begin tonight by talking about the turbulence, what I refer to as the turbulence in the CPP. So, our friend and colleague, Wadei Powell, may be joining us anytime from now. But Let me start like this. The reason the CPP came together, I think the objective is to present a single presidential ticket and a single slate of legislative candidates and candidates for other elections from the date of the formation of the CPP to including 2023 presidential and general elections. It seems to me now that there are troubles brewing in the CPP. We are hearing reports that Liberty Party, for instance, is becoming, there is a Waka wings of the Liberty Party and the Alexander Cumming wing of the Liberty Party. Is Liberty Party divided into two factions? We also see that in the Unity Party, there were rumors that the biggest constituent political party, Unity Party, was about to walk away. And then later this week, we heard that in Accra, the two front runners for the CPP standard bearership, Mr. Cummings and Mr. Bwaka, met in Accra to resolve their differences, to decide, or what I may think, to step outside the normal democratic tenets and have a compromised candidate. Also, we'll be looking at President Weah's Christmas message. But let's start like this. And since Call is a member of the Unity Party, so let's start with the Liberty Party this time. What's going on in the Liberty Party? What's responsible for that, and where do we see it's going? Let me start with Carl.
For 10 days. The CDC saying they can.
I'm going to say that Charlene Brumskin did a wonderful job of summarizing what, from her point of view, was the issue with the CPP and mostly with Liberty Party she was focused on, but it also reflects the coalition political parties. And my understanding of what Charlene presented was the wrongs on both sides, the wrongdoings of the, fact that, the Constitution was changed to accommodate the potential of new candidates, instead of them allowing the existing candidates to ride out the rest of their term. But when her father, who was, the political leader, passed away, may his soul rest in peace, they wanted to, there was like a scramble for power, is what I understood Charlene to have said. And I think that she was incredibly mature in her analysis, considering her emotional ties to the party. She was able to suspend that and look at it objectively. Being a father, a daughter of a father that I adored, my late father as well, I felt her need to protect her father's legacy. And what she did was she basically described what I usually call an exhibition of two wrongs in conflict. She did not take sides. And I always say this, when there are two wrongs in conflict, it is best to not take sides. Which wrong are you? Which wrong are we? Doesn't matter. She laid out some issues, and it looked to me like what we've been saying on the show all along, that it's really about personal interest, and people are not putting the country, their party, their policies, their politics in front of their own individual needs. And that was my understanding. And I think of everyone that has explained the conflict within Liberty Party, I think she did it the most brilliantly and objectively. With that being said, I really don't care. I don't care. It's like, if they're not talking about issues that are going to, solve the problems for Liberian people, it just is not really for me. I don't care. I mean, I have friends in Liberty Party that I've, had for many, many years, and, whatever. It is what it is.
But Carl, you should care, right? Because you are a member of the CPP. The CPP came together to present a single candidate. Looking at what we have in the Liberty Party now, complete disintegration, factions, suspension, sacking, and counter-sacking, that put a big dent in the objective of the CPP. So you should care.
Well, I actually don't. And the reason I don't care is because the greater objective, my greater objective, is always what is in the best interest of our country and our people. And as long as I don't see that being the focus of the debate, I don't have a fish to fry in that. And yes, CPP was brought together to unite the opposition. Hopefully, when we first were hearing about this, it should have been around some ideology or some common goal. And it turns out the common goal is really just, to make one of two people president. And I've repeatedly said on this show and anywhere I can be heard that I think that's just not good enough. You can't come together just to, have a contest between two guys with a country of 5 million people and exclude other opposition leaders from potentially putting their hand up and competing in a democratic way for the opportunity to also lead. I thought that was wrong. I still think it's wrong. And so all of these little, tantrums and growing pains and everything is because the foundation is rotten. The CPP framework makes no sense. It's not ideologically based. It's not structured in a way that's functional. And also, it's not the emphasis and the focus of this is not to advance the cause of the Liberian people. When you read the framework, the emphasis and the focus is the cause of advancing the interest of two politicians, really, right? And that for me is just not enough for me to get. I focus my energy elsewhere, and I think most well-meaning Liberians that are opposed to bad governance and selfish political interests are not going to have much to I can't change it. I'm powerless to change it. So I rather focus my energy elsewhere. And that doesn't mean I'm not a part of Unity Party. It's a legacy party for me. This is something that I will say anywhere. I'm very proud to be a member of the Unity Party. Do I agree with everything UP does? Of course not. And this is one of them.
And we'll come to the UP. Stay with the Liberty Party. Let me go to Mr. Gongloe. Mr. Gongloe, there are two wings of the Liberty Party. Are we seeing two factions? And first of all, on the Yombli Kanga side, which I call the Joseph N. Boakai wing of the Liberty Party, they are saying everything that is wrong is Musability. In fact, people are saying he came in the party to destroy it and work for President Weah and Mrs. Sherif, which I find rather ironic because Musability was the campaign manager 2017. What is your understanding of the issues that are in the Liberty Party, and what do you think is responsible for that?
Well, thank you, Dennis. Before I say anything, let me just first make a disclaimer here. My older sister is a ranking member of the Liberty Party, so the views I'm going to express here tonight are not views I've discussed with her in any way. So I want to make that very clear from the get-go before someone probably think that what I may say here are things that she's probably shared with me. Okay, that being said, just like Cole said, I listened to Charlene Bronsky, and I was saying to myself, I wish I knew her. I think it's time she takes over her father legacy. It's time she becomes a political leader of the Liberty Party. I think she has matured enough to take over the party now.
But Mr. Gongloe, this is not monarchy. This is not a monarchy.
No. I mean, it doesn't have to be monarchy. Even in the United States, we have seen instances where a popular senator or a popular representative die in office, and the wife or the husband is elected to fill that vacancy. I mean, it happens. It happens all over the way. It depends on how it is managed. Once it goes through a democratic process, I'm not saying she must call press conference tomorrow morning and say, look, I'm now the new leader. It means she has to go through vigorous consultation to the founding members of the Liberty Party, particularly the friends of Bronsky, who some of them are still alive and active in the party. And she must make the case that we have to do away with the two factions. The two factions are destroying our institution. And I think she made that case at the press conference very strongly. Listen, I can read things she said. At that press conference, she said she opposed the even the amendment, she was opposed to that, but she, eventually agreed to that, and they said they were going to also have a new leadership, and she vehemently opposed that. What was the essence of having new leadership? The leadership that brought the election that brought Steve Zacko to power, you do all of that National Executive Committee, but you keep the political leader position intact. I didn't see that logic. It means that there was a particular agenda that change was set to achieve. And today, the party is where it is today because they did not go by the rule they said. They have a selective application of the new constitution. They have a selective application of the amendment. And she laid it out clearly in her press statement, and I can just read this quickly. She said, I saw this arbitrary decision to elect new officers in 2020 as an unnecessary unraveling of a system that was intact, a system by Charles Bronski that did not need to be changed in less than 1 year after his death. That is a powerful statement.
Yeah.
This statement for me shows to me that Charlene has matured and she can be a leader of a political party.
Right. And some people are saying, Mr. Gongloe, where has Charlene been? Because the Unity Party, the Liberty Party that Bromskin left, you could see that he handpicked Yombly as the political leader. And that was the first time. Most of the time, the political leaders come as a result of election. And then all the power was given to Bromskin because it was Bromskin. Now Bromskin is gone, so the need to change this power was necessary, don't you think? And now what is Charlene, what is her role now? What is she? Because I listened to that press conference, I didn't see her establish the credibility as why should we listen to Charlene?
No, I think she did. She did in the press conference.
Is it because you are the daughter of Bromskin? Is that it?
No. I think she did it. She did it very smartly, and in a very cogent manner. I can tell you. I can point out a few instances. She said, after the death of her father, she was still mourning.
Yeah.
And anyone, I mean, she made it clear how dear she was to her father.
Right.
Even among all of her siblings, she's the only one that she got older sibling, that older than her, but she is the one that was considered the closest person to her father. And that's why even the politically active people in the Liberty Party, take to her. They go to her for consultation because she was by her father's side. And she got struck by that, by her death, by his death. And because he didn't just die a sudden death, he went through a lot of struggle, a lot of treatment. So it was a slow process and it broke her down. I mean, let's face it, who would not be broken down if you lose your loved one? So for me, that is understandable. And it was not more or less like a transparent process that brought in. Her father was alive when he designated somebody to stand in his place because he was going through his difficult time. So he designated somebody to stand, not by election, to stand in his place. And I believe if he had recovered, probably, I mean, we are all Liberians, we're hearing so many rumors that if he had recovered from the illness, he was going to come by as a political leader. Okay? So I mean, there was no need for her to do that. And I think it's understandable why she didn't step forward. I quite honestly believe so.
Okay, Mr. Sherif, I see a lot of blame on Musa's ability from the Joseph Boakar's wing of the LP. They're saying, hey, but Musa's abilities as sentenced to the chairmanship was something that the hierarchy on the Yombly and the DeLon side, they agreed on and they supported. What changed? Unmute yourself, sir.
Let me first address the issue, the speech delivered or the remark from the daughter of the former executive leader, the former leader of the Labor Party and the founder, Mr. Bromskin. One of the things that I took away was that the party was founded, and we all know that for a fact. The party was founded by Charles Bromskin, and this was almost like his, there was a level of proprietorship, right? So you see these organizations, these political parties, they're not very democratic, Dennis. You see the all-powerful political leader, and every election, for as long as that political leader is alive, every single election, that political leader is going to be the standard bearer. So it's not very democratic. So that's not unique to the Liberty Party. The Liberty Party was Charles Bromskin. Charles Bromskin was the Liberty Party. And so there was no effort, I don't think, to broaden or bring up new leaders who will succeed Mr. Bromskin. So there was not enough effort, in my view, to build the Liberty Party after Charles Bromskin. So after the passing of Mr. Bromskin, you had others who wanted to be a part of the leadership. And so when they had the new constitution, what happened? So the convention that Yamli Conga Lawrence is now erroneously saying that, this has to be canceled, this has to be declared void. It was an opportunity for others to take leadership position. And that's what happened. There's nothing wrong with that. These undemocratic institutions need to be broadened. They need to be more democratic. Even in her statement, she said, my father founded this party on Christian principles. I hope that's a misspeak. She said, then he invited others, our other brothers and sisters to come on board. I hope that's a misspeak. Those are not things that, in a country of different religious beliefs and ethnic backgrounds that you want to express out there, even if that's what he did, but you want to move away from that to include everybody. And so when Musa and others, so after that convention, Musa is chairman, and before he became chairman, as you stated, Yamli Conga Lawrence was very established in the party, someone who was handpicked by Mr. Bromskin, which is again undemocratic. And so you go on to the current day, the friction is actually over who is to represent the CPP. And so while Musa and others are in the camp of Cummins, Ms. Conga Lawrence and others and her supporters have thrown their support behind JNB. And that is the issue. If that wasn't, if those weren't around, if that dynamic wasn't around, I don't think we would have this issue. But because of that, there's a friction. And what I said last week, I made mention of the fact that whatever the political leader or the suspended political leader is doing now is dangerous. So the Musa, the chairman said that the suspension was based on non-payment of dues, and he said this is supported by the Constitution. So I would expect Ms. Lawrence to come forward and say that is not constitutional. This is my backing for not paying my dues. But she didn't say she didn't pay her dues. In fact, I think there's an admission by her that she didn't pay her dues. She and others didn't pay their dues. And in fact, they went to some other places to support or pay the rent on some other offices. That is not the point. You can pay the rent. You can do whatever else. Is it constitutional for you not to pay your dues? Or is it constitutional for what you did? So she is very, very wrong, regardless of what Mr. Ability may have done, she is very, very wrong and is dangerous for Liberia. If George Weah did that, we'll be talking about that tonight. So what she's doing right now with Dylan and others, with Zargo and others, is very unconstitutional. And this is a constitutional coup d'etat, and Liberians should be outraged that an opposition political party, one of the top tier opposition political parties, is engaging in a dangerous unconstitutional act. I don't understand this, Dennis.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, you clearly support the ruling CDC, but here is the thing. We have the problem in the Liberty Party now. Mr. Sherif is correct. If we didn't have this two persons vying for the CPP chairmanship, we probably wouldn't be where we are now. You see that Mr. Brum, just like other political leaders, where we have this king in one party, the political leader is, someone said, the life and blood of the party. They are perpetually, they're going to be the standard bearer until they die or something happens. So we see that the tree Councillor Brumskin planted is now starting to bear fruits. There is nobody who is able to step in his shoes because he was there, has the law and gospel throughout. Now he's gone. Do you think the two factions in the Liberty Party now, where do you see this going? Do you see that this can be resolved, even though it benefits the CDC?
Look, let me, my sister and myself, we sometimes have some rare moment of agreement here. I think I agree with Paul. I don't give a hoot about what happened in the Liberty Party. For all I care, they can do whatever they think they can do to themselves. What it confirms to me is that the Liberty Party and by extension the CPP is no credible alternative to any government regime in this country. I mean, basic procedures, basic concepts are not even respected, within their institutions. And you can imagine the situation, the chaos and the confusion and the disintegration that is taking place in the opposition. You can imagine that kind of scenario in government. What would government look like? I mean, what the state of the nation would be if we have that kind of chaos that is taking place in the opposition that should be potentially an alternative to the current government. But let me relax the partisan hat for a moment, because there are certain things we actually need to evaluate on a much more larger scale. And as Liberians, we should really be concerned about some of these things that are part of our post-war politics. There are certain things that are concerning that, even though we're in this great period of democracy, but if we don't take time, we will undermine the entire democratic process. This whole political leadership, that is the creation of post-war politics. This is the post-war political leadership. I mean, I've been in Liberian politics. I've never heard that word before. I mean, they were leading members of political groups, political institutions, but the decision-making body was the executive committees of those institutions, headed by the chairman or their chairlady or their chairpersons. But now, after the war, we created this whole thing called political leader that seems to be like a perpetual position for someone who has run for office, and Sherif said, as long as that person remains alive, that position is that person. You get a unity party that got political leader for the next 6 years. It doesn't matter if there is another person in the unity party that has better ideas, that is better suited, that is better qualified, but because they have a political leader that served a 6-year term. So until Mr. Weah leaves the stage, he will continue to be political leader. What kind of anti-competitive political environment is that?
Yeah.
Every political institution should put forward their best. Every political institution should put forward their smartest, their brightest, and that should come out of the result of the political competition. But if we start installing dynasty that will last until they leave, that is the problem we have. So from the post-war politics, we got this political leader thing. From the post-war politics, we got this trucking of voters. We had our issue before the war, but never in the history of real politics where voters being trucked from one county to the other county.
So Mr. Kunney.
What I'm saying is, I think that there need to be a serious reflection
right.
on these issues.
Mr. Kunney, quickly. The Liberty Party political leader, Yomli Kanga, and also other top executives were suspended because they did not pay their dues.
Yes, let me get to that point. Because that point is really relative to some of the advocacy that I've been doing here. When you come in this country, you advocate for dual citizenship. One of the questions many of the people that you meet, one of the things they ask you is, but why are you people so concerned about this dual citizenship thing? People come into the country, nobody bother them, they all are doing, they buy land, they buy property, this and that. Why you keep talking about it? Just leave it. That law doesn't mean nothing. And you will hear that position from prominent people, not just ordinary people. And so I ask the question, but if the law don't mean anything, why don't we just get it off the book? You see, I'm saying that to say that the very law that is used, or that was used by Musa Benedict, that law has been on the books. If you don't pay your due, you are suspended. That is the law. But in a typical Liberian situation, people enjoy privileges, but they don't take on obligations. And the laws are not enforced. So the law is there. Even it was the law, it was never enforced. Nobody paid dues. And now somebody in a conflict situation, somebody grabbed that law and said, you know what, I'm going to use this law. This law will give me an advantage for whatever I will do. So that's the impact of these kind of laws that are left on the books, whether people need to reform them or not. And this is why sometimes we say, look, there are Liberians that come to Liberia, nobody bother them for anything. They can buy land, they can do this, but get this law off the book. Because if you're not enforcing the law, why do you keep the law? So what is happening in the Liberty Party is the situation, again, not only to the Liberty Party, I will expand on that later. There is a serious national situation in this country where people only grab to privileges, but they don't pay attention to the obligation of the privileges that they enjoy. You find that in the opposition, you find that in the government as well, where people only know privileges, but they don't know their obligation, they don't know their responsibilities. As a result, everybody in this country feels that they can do anything because they need to enjoy privileges. You don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to school to enjoy a big car. You don't need to go to school to money in your pocket. But you need to go to school to do your job, to know what you got to do. It is what you do, the way you execute your responsibilities and your obligation that distinguish you from the next person. That will make a lot of people to look at you and say, you know what, that job what Dennis is doing, I'm able to do it. But if all I see is Dennis riding car, Dennis got money, Dennis got the serene, and every other thing, you can bring anybody from the village, you can enjoy that same privilege. So there is a serious question of people enjoying privileges here in this country, both in the opposition and in the government, and they pay very little attention to their obligations
and responsibilities. That's a strong point. Let me go to Kehleboe. He's the closest to the LPA. Let's conclude on this whole due payment here. Yomli and the rest of the party executive were suspended by Musa. I heard members of the Liberty Party saying, well, nobody has paid dues. What do you make of this whole due payment? You think Musa is right to suspend them, or enforcing that part of the constitution that they have to go?
Yeah, the way I look at it, I think just similar to what Mr. Kunney said, you have laws sitting down, dusting on the books, has not been applied. But when I listen to Musa Belete and even the Secretary General or Martin Kula, my sources within the current National Executive Committee indicating to me that they have to take that course of action because since it came to power, and this other issues started to emerge, some people have decided not to recognize them, and they thought due payment would be one of the things that would kind of more or less stem the authority that we have legitimate authority. These people are paying due to us. But historically, people don't pay due in political parties in Liberia because our political system is still developing. You have that's why what Sherif said earlier. You have one person that becomes standard bearer, or now we say political leader. I mean, they just change the form. It's still the same. Election time, they're standard bearer. After election, they're political leader. Then they come by and they're standard bearer until they die. Or there is infight in the party, and the party disintegrate, and it goes on. So they carry that title onto the win election. So what I believe the guys are doing, they were actually finding an alternative means of getting legitimacy to say yes. Steve Zako,
Mr. Gongloe, let me interrupt a little bit, because the people that got Musa there include Yombly and Darius DeLong. So I don't believe that they too were not paying dues to because they did not recognize Musa's legitimacy.
Because I don't think due payment is really the crux of the matter. I think the crux of the matter is access to 2023, positioning themselves to benefit from the spoils of the 2023 process. Who is going to be closer? Who is going to be the person, the kingmaker within the CPP for 2023? And like Carl has alluded to many times on this show, that is one of the flaws of the CPP. Fundamentally, the CPP was not intended to actually unite the opposition. The CPP was intended to disintegrate the opposition. I mean, I can share, if you have time, I can share my experience with you. I worked for the Cattle Center in Kenya. And what I saw, the National Rainbow Coalition, NAC, that brought Mwaki Baki to power, I know, and I sat in different gatherings. I know how they organize. They organize at different levels. Even the religious community was also organized to support the opposition movement. The student civil society organization were also organized to support the opposition. They had their issues and they brought their issues on the table to the opposition, and those were incorporated in the opposition platform. So it was a united front that Dano Aramwa ruling party or Kanu could not stand. At that time, the current president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, was a candidate. I think he was just 42 years then when he contested, and he lost that election. I went, I went to his concession speech and I listened to him. Look, so what is happening in Liberia is just a classic display of greed and lack of leadership in the opposition. There was no need to rush and say the door is closed. The four person will determine who becomes the leader of the opposition.
Right, because they didn't want competition. So
they didn't want that.
Right, Mr. Sherif, that's a segue to the other CPP members. The Unity Party, we heard rumors that they're walking away. The Unity Party is walking away. We spoke to some key members of the Unity Party. They did not deny or confirm, but it's very likely that they're walking away. And we've also learned that the ALP of Mr. Benina Yuri is also walking away, and that ALP is going to join the Joseph N. Boakai faction of the Liberty Party. Complete chaos, and that's why we say political turbulence in the CPP. Mind you, the CPP came together to put forward a single candidate to defeat President Weah. Here we are, Unity Party is walking away, ALP is walking away. What's going on here?
Yeah, you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, are you surprised, really? I mean, for how long we've been talking about this sort of political dissonance and the eventual collapse of the collective opposition, the CPP. We've talked about this. We've known this all along, right? So I'm not surprised. I think what's going to happen is they're going to reconfigure themselves in a different form. The Unity Party is the largest and the strongest member of the current CPP. And so they have a lot to gain, I would think, from collaborating with other political parties. Right now, the Unity Party, I don't think the Unity Party is thinking that they really, really need the other members, like the other faction of the Liberty Party. And I hate to factionalize this because this is something, during the war you have, one or two people come together and this person faction and that person faction. Now this is, something that's been introduced into our current political system, current political reality. So I think that the Unity Party, they're going to form some type of coalition with other smaller parties like the ALP that you mentioned, or some other smaller parties. They're going to form a coalition. I think it's in their interest to do so, and they understand that. For right now, they just want to move away from what is going on in the LP. They're not totally moving away from the LP because Conga Lawrence is with Mr. Boakai. So this whole confusion. So if I were in the Unity Party, I would advise the Unity Party to come together and be the leader, take the leadership responsibility. The political leader of the Unity Party needs to take the leadership position, take the leadership responsibility, and bring the Liberty Party together. Since the Liberty Party cannot bring itself together, especially Ms. Conga Lawrence. I mean, it needs to be said that whatever she's doing now is counterproductive to our democratic process. This is not how you run a political party. You don't just get up in the morning from bed and say, I'm going to now annul the Constitution of 2021, of January or February 2021, whatever time they signed their new amendment to their Constitution. I'm now going to dismiss the entire leadership. In fact, I have a new chairman. This is not how you run a political party. So if I am Joseph Boakai, I would advise Ms. Conga Lawrence to make peace within her own party, to pay her dues. How about starting with advising her to pay her dues? We've talked about leadership. Who is providing leadership? Mr. Boakai needs to show leadership by asking Ms. Conga Lawrence to pay her dues. Please go ahead and pay your dues. John McCain, when McCain ran against Obama, there was a woman in New Hampshire who said in the political rally that Obama was not American, that Obama was a Muslim radical. Yeah. And just before she completed, John McCain said, no, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. He is a good American. He's a decent American. I just happen to disagree with him. So we need a leader now. And I'm looking at JNB. We need a leader to stand up, to say to Ms. Conga Lawrence, first pay your dues. I know it hasn't been applied. This law on their book hasn't been applied, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. So if Musa Bility has decided now, as the chairman, he has constitutional authority to do that, to apply the law, Ms. Conga Lawrence, all she needs to do is to abide by the law that she herself served under, but not to stage a constitutional and illegal and dangerous coup d'etat within your own political party. And so the CPP, although it's going to collapse, but I think in some shape or form, Mr. Boakai will still be able to put together something. Keep in mind, the Unity Party is still the largest and strongest component of that CPP.
Mr. Sherif, I don't know if you have any data that support that, but I will leave it as that. Let me go to a call.
As the strongest?
As the strongest and the largest, because
they are the strongest.
I agree with you.
I don't know if there's any data to tell us who's the strongest and who's the largest.
No, but Dennis, you look at the historical data. That's all. You don't need to look at the current data. You look at the performance from the last election. That's what you look at.
Exactly.
I'm asking for data. So you are saying there is historical data.
Yeah, the historical data is the
Right.
2017 election. That's the one that covered the entire country.
Exactly.
I mean, I
Anyway,
know
we can
the
talk about that
performance may
data
not
more.
have been,
But let me ask
been
Cole.
since then, but no. I mean,
Yeah, let me throw some things at Cole. Cole, first of all, JNB, Joseph N. Boakai of your party is the head of the CPP. Okay, and what we keep hearing that the Unity Party also has factions. There is the Joseph N. Boakai faction, and there is the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf faction. You could see surrogates of the Unity Party throwing even the kitchen sink at Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, saying, "Well, she's the mastermind of what is going on in the Liberty Party." I mean, they give President Sirleaf so much power that she is controlling Weah at the same time controlling Liberty Party, at the same time controlling everything. That's one. Two, the arguments they're making in the Unity Party, they're saying we don't need to have a primary. We don't need anything. All we need, Cummings should go to Boakai and say, "Hey, Boakai, let me be your vice president." And I don't know what can be more, and I like how you call that word, what can be more absurd than for two people, they are vying for the leadership of the CPP, and you're saying one should go and ask the other person and say, "Hey, let me be your vice president." They are not even putting the onus on the former vice president to say, "Okay, you go and recruit this guy." Two, there's also JNB. The issue of JNB leadership has someone of the leader of the CPP. The CPP is completely falling apart under his watch. He told us that he knows how to resolve issues. Those issues have not been resolved. There is the issue of due payment in the Liberty Party. One person is recognizing this fashion, the other person is recognizing this fashion, and we don't see where is JNB leadership in all this.
That's let's address the first issue. I don't think there's factions within the Unity Party. I think there's people, individual members of the Unity Party. It's an organization of people that have their own mind, their own thoughts, but there's no factions in the Unity Party. We're clear on our constitution. Joseph Nyeman Boakai is a standard bearer, not a political leader. It's two different things. He was the last elected standard bearer. We are going to have primaries next year, and he may or may not be re-elected as standard bearer. I keep saying this is what our constitution says. Our chairman is the leader of the institution, Amin Modad. This is what it is. If we like it or not, if we think we're going to copy LP or ANC, we're not LP, we're not ANC. Unity Party is structured completely differently. That's the first thing I want to clear the air about. So the CPP coming together and taking a standard bearer that may or may not continue to be standard bearer and making that person a de facto political leader so he can fit into some kind of cookie cutter, thing to match the other parties, I think was flawed. But, I'm just a member. I don't have any power other than my one voice, my one vote. But those are my thoughts. I don't think there's a faction. I think in any political organization, everybody's not going to like every politician. There was an election in Cape Mount between a very experienced and established Unity partisan, and then there was a younger, less experienced Unity partisan that had to run independent. I supported Kula Fofana in Cape Mount and not Deba Vapala. No offense to Sis Deba, but I just thought Kula would have been a better choice based on what I know of her. So, that doesn't mean that I don't like Deba Vapala or have an issue with her. I respect her. It was a personal choice to follow a junior partisan and support her efforts. People have a right in an institution to not be sheep, to not be sheeple, to not follow everything hook and sinker. People have a right to think for themselves. People have a right to support people based on principle or not support people based on principle. That doesn't mean there's factions. That means there's thinking individuals in the organization. And I think that's something that I'm very proud of Unity Party, is that you have people that can speak, truth to power, speak truth to the powerless. It is our right in the institution. We were not made by anyone who is living today. Our founders have all passed on to the next realm long ago, and the rest of us are remaining, and the institution stands strong. It is a very massive organization. And as big as Unity Party is, you're not going to have, in any way, shape, or form, one person leading the cause. There are Unity partisans supporting Alex Cummings. There are Unity partisans supporting Tiawan Gongloe, not because they don't want to be in the party, but maybe because they're waiting to see if the party produces somebody else in the primary. Maybe they don't want to support JNP. That's their right. But that being said, majority of the people, from my understanding, in the Unity Party are united behind Joseph Boycott. For those who are not, they are still partisans, and it is their right to be in a dissenting position.
Can I interject a little bit, Cole? Because
Yes.
we cannot deny that there is this strong President Sherif wing of the Unity Party, and people that are supporting JMB continue to cry about this. So we can't pretend anymore that this is not there.
I don't believe that.
In fact, when the rumors came that the Unity Party, the JNB faction is walking away, there is this Sherif faction that said, not so fast. That's what we continue to hear.
I don't know where you're hearing this. I'm in the party. I mean, Joseph Boycott and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf were president and vice president for 12 years. When we talk about factions, it's as if to say the two of them created the party. Ellen brought Boycott to UP. Boycott was not a Unity partisan until Ellen brought him in and chose him as a vice president. So the idea that there's a faction, I think, is a bit exaggerated. There are people, who were terribly offended when President Sirleaf was expelled temporarily from the party. And that's their right. But to call that a faction, I think it's a bit extreme. We don't have, Ellen is not running for president. She served for 12 years. She can't run for president again. So there's no faction of people standing behind her saying Ellen for president. She's retired from politics. So she did well for the Unity Party. She did well for Liberia. Let's move on. Right now, the person that wants to be president, vocally wants to be president in UP, is Joseph Boycott. And majority of the people in the institution are supporting Joseph Boycott for president. But like I said, being an insider in the party, I don't believe that there's a faction running behind Ellen. It wouldn't even make any sense. She's retired.
Mr. Kunney, am I the only one hearing about the troubles in the Unity Party?
Well, you're not the only one hearing about the trouble in the Unity Party. And you're not the only one hearing about the failure of leadership on the part of Ambassador Boycott. Look, the supporters of Ambassador Boycott have pretended him as this problem solver, cooler hair, mature leadership, everything they presented. And this is a basic issue here. The CPP is crumbling under the ambassador's leadership. The CPP is crumbling under the ambassador's leadership. You see, I said on the show one time that, your evangelism is useless if you cannot win soul. You cannot be a leader all by yourself if you cannot inspire other people to follow you and do things that you believe in. The ambassador has not, the vice president, the former vice president has not shown any leadership in the CPP crisis. The political institution is blowing apart, and all he's concerned about is his own election. No respect to democratic traditions. He doesn't want any primary. If you think you are the best to lead the opposition, go to the convention of all delegates and let it be one man, one vote. It is this issue of black voting. It is black voting. This history of being process where what has led to the days integration of the CPP. And that is another woman's leadership. And again, can we imagine, what this country leadership would be? If you can resolve a simple issue in a collaborative political party, what are the issues you're going to resolve in the country? Or you want to be president first. And this is the other thing. There are a lot of people that want to do things for Liberia for the say they want to be president first. You know, what is in this president thing that prevent you from doing what you have to do, but you must be president first? Are you relying on the coercive institutions of the state to force people? You can't inspire, you can't motivate, you can't lead until you become president. This is dangerous thing, and we are witnessing this. And you talked about transparency. The other day, people criticized Madam Sherif. I'm now a supporter, but people criticized her that she acquired the Unity Party headquarters on some dubious means, and the vice president was not even here. Well, now we see the celebration of the Unity Party headquarters. The public don't know, but what's the agreement for that party? Is there somebody that is donating that party secretly again to be taken away maybe a few years from now? There is no leadership anywhere here other than let me the woman president. The woman being 7 years, 2 years, let me be president. That's all we hearing. You know?
Dennis, can I come in? I wasn't.
If you want to be a leader, you must first of all tell other people that are important to you. And then you must be able to tell other people why they should join you to do those things and how you will do these things. And I guess, like your middleman here, you know, the old man, there's no leadership anywhere, my brother. There's no leadership. And this is why when I talk about the first round victory, you owe your again. There are Liberians that are looking at the disintegration, the chaos in the opposition and saying, you know what? Our default position is to continue with the status quo. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. There is an opening here. There is a political opening here. And put it on my analyst part. I'm looking at the candidacy of Councillor Gongloe. He's a very principled individual. He's tested. He has character. He has integrity. And don't be surprised if 2023 may be the race down between Gongloe and the ruling party. Yep. Because people cannot stomach this innovation, this accusation, this job.
Hold on, Mr. Kunney. Let's call Chami call.
Yeah, so Mr. Kunney, I really appreciate how eloquent you are, and you can really paint a picture that isn't accurate. You make it so colorful, it's almost believable. Here's the flaw in what you said. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was never the chairman of the Unity Party. She was never in charge of administrative functions in the Unity Party. She did not negotiate for headquarters for the Unity Party. The headquarters, the Unity Party chairman from 2011 was Councillor Ronnie Sherman. And after Ronnie Sherman, it was Wilmot Page. So this whole idea that, and I try to make this clear, UP is not a cult of one human being that everyone follows. It's an institution. So our administrative people are the ones that are responsible for negotiating lease agreements and things like that. That's important to say, because the misinformation, oh, Ellen did this, Ellen did that, oh, Boyka is doing this, Boyka is doing that.
That's coming from the Unity Party.
The responsibility. Their responsibility is to run for president and win. That's what they do. They run for president and they win. The institution is managed by the chairman and other executive members of the organization. There's no confusion in the party about that. There never has been. And if there was, there's no way Ellen Johnson Sirleaf would have been expelled from the party.
What is wrong with the Unity Party accepting the primary or going to primary? It seems to me that Mr. Boyka is running away from competition with Cummings. It is either why can't Cummings accept to be my VP? Why can't you guys coronate me? What's wrong with?
I don't think anybody's avoiding a primary. So and I've been saying this consistently. That CPP framework document is a contradiction to the Unity Party Constitution. We have to have our primary in 2022. That's what the Constitution requires. And so we are going to have our primary. So even if Boyka had gone to primary, he might not be the UP person. It makes no sense. And I've been saying this all along. You cannot have a primary with a standard bearer that was elected in 2017 for that election.
Yeah, now Waka is in charge. But let me go to Mr. Gongloe. Mr. Gongloe, there are
So
things.
I mean, and I don't care who doesn't want to hear it. It's a fact. That's what our Constitution says, and we will go to primary in 2022.
Yeah, a lot of the panelists are laughing, but let me go to Gongloe.
They can laugh all they want. It's a fact.
Mr. Gongloe, it seems to me that Mr. Bouaka is running away from a competition with Cummings. That is very clear. Also, why not primary? Why not follow the CPP process that say we have our VPS? If that does first, we try to do a compromise of whatever that word is called, and then we go to the VPS, and then we go to a primary. Those are the steps. It seems that the Unity Party is not interested. Very recently, we heard that they were in Accra trying to compromise, or people trying to talk to them and say, "Hey, let's work out some backdoor deal." What's your take? I mean,
well, first, Dennis, I will say this. I don't want to speak about the Accra meeting because I have no details.
Me neither.
Until I hear from Ambassador Bouaka himself, or officially from the Unity Party and officially from the ANC, I've heard a lot on Spoon. I've talked to some of the Spoon panelists. I've heard a lot on social media. I've spoken to even some officials within the ANC. I've chatted with some people, out there that I believe are influential around Ambassador Bouaka. So I can speak more on who invited who, whether it was meant for compromise. The only thing around on Ambassador Bouaka, the only worrisome thing I will say about that meeting, I'm even tempted not to say because the sources of the information, they didn't say much about Alexander coming. Those who accompanied Alexander coming to that meeting, they didn't say much about that. They said much about those who accompanied Ambassador Bouaka. For me, if it were a political meeting and Ambassador Bouaka was accompanied by his son and his nephew, Jacob Akoli, for me, that would be a worrisome thing for me personally. I say so because Liberia has a bad history with nepotism, where family influence in public service has been bad for Liberia, has not been good. And that's the main reason I'll be worried. But as to the content and the details of that discussion, since I don't have it, I don't want to speak to that, okay? But on the CPP, we made this point over and again. If the CPP was genuinely intended to unite, to have a united opposition, I didn't see the need for having a door shut behind the rest of the opposition in Liberia and say, look, you can come and be observer, we can let you or participate in legislative processes, but we can't decide who becomes the standard bearer and vice standard bearer of the coalition. Okay, so you can't. I mean, I thought it was whoever told them it was a rush to judgment. It was a bad strategy, and that's why it's unraveling in their faces now, because it was intended that okay, we can unite the rest of the population among us. We have just a binary choice for them to choose between two old men, let's move away. We can then use our Facebook activists, our media activists, and they can woo the population that there is a united opposition. And clearly, it is not a united opposition front. And that's why it's unraveling in the way it was designed. It was designed, but the design of the CPO was meant to fail. And so I'm not surprised that it's falling apart.
Yeah.
Some of the issues that are grappling with today are issues that should have been trashed out from the get-go, from the very foundation of the CPP.
Is Mr. Bouaka running away from a primary with Kunney?
I don't think so, because I'm not sure the CPP was meant to engender competition in the opposition. So how can he be running? It was not meant to be a competitive process. And Mr. Cumming knew that. Mr. Cumming, Mr. Ure, everybody who went to the CPP knew that it was not going to be a competitive process.
So they went with the idea of coronating Mr. Boakai. Is that what I'm hearing?
One of them, they went with the idea of consensus. Consensus is not competition. In fact, I didn't read, but according to one of the guys, the framework in the consensus process, Horatio Gould, and Benedict also spoke on this many times, that in the CPP, if one party disagree, they will have to wait to find all the means to convince that one party. And they must all agree before they act. I mean, they literally went on radio and explained this. And I said, but this is outrageous. How can you be in a democratic process and you don't seek the majority rule to settle disagreement and you say consensus?
Right.
No, it was meant to fail, and that's why it's falling apart.
No, according to the CPP framework, consensus is step number one. No, after consensus, they can go to the VPS, and then after that, they go to primary. So why is the process not playing out, Mr. Sherif? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think what Comrade Gongloe mentioned, I think it's a salient point. Keep in mind, these institutions are not, we've talked about that already, and not to belabor the point, these institutions are not democratic, are not very democratic. And so there was a general assumption that we already have a standard bearer. There will be a standard bearer, and Joseph N. Boakai has the chance. This is the assumption. It's not Mohammed Sherif saying this. The assumption was Joseph N. Boakai will be the standard bearer, and he has the best chance to beat Mr. Weah. And so everybody else, you have to play. You have to be second. So you can't be first. Meanwhile, Mr. Cummings has an ambition also. So he wants to be the standard bearer. And so I guess what you're asking, and it's a very good point, is that, is Mr. Boakai running away from the competition? I would say that he's been very cautious, right? So he doesn't want to take any chances. And so
he's not sure of winning. Is that what you mean? He's not sure of winning.
Right. So he may use Cummings, from what I've heard, may be willing to use a heavy dose of resources to
sounds like bribery. That's horrible.
Right, but he has resources, and Boakai is afraid because
this is the thing.
Afraid of that, and so he wants to play the old man card. Oh, I was there. I can be vice president too.
Right. So okay. this is our politics now, right? Our politics is, I'm going to go over here and give these people a bag of rice and t-shirts, and they're going to vote for me. And then, after election, you never go back there again. So this is the thing. And so Mr. Boakai looks like it's running away from that. And my thing is, he has no reason to do that. He has no reason to do that, because I still believe, Dennis, that Boakai, even Mr. Cummings.
No, I didn't get you. You said Boakai is running away, and he has no reason to run away. Is that what you're saying?
He has no reason. He has no reason not to go to primary with Cummings, because I think that he is the more powerful.
But what is his fear?
Of the two candidates.
Can I come in, please?
Yeah, come in. Because
here's what the problem is. The entire CPP is structured in a way to thwart competition and thwart the democratic process. I have said this on this platform times without number, right? So you get together and you sit at the table and you make sure you close everyone else out. So to even say that Boakai is afraid of going to primaries with Cummings is giving legitimacy to two individuals, two retired people who have decided to create a systematic process, an organized way of shutting the door to competition. Both of these men are thwarting competition. If they were to have proceeded with the coalition political party framework document, because it does not give room for anyone else within their institutions to vie for the presidency. This is worse than voter suppression. This is what we call candidate suppression. It's undemocratic and it is unconstitutional. I've said this over and over again. You cannot get into a process where you prevent other citizens, other members of your organization from raising their hand and having the opportunity to compete for office. It is wrong. And so the answer to your question is they are both men are avoiding competition. Both men have felt that if they only were the only two candidates there, on the one hand, Boykai has felt that he is the strongest of the two because he has a history of obtaining more votes. He comes from a larger, more established political institution. Therefore, going against only Cummings and not anyone else would put him in a better position. Cummings as well feels that he can use cash violence, and he can also point to Mr. Boykai's health and age. And therefore, he would only be competing with this person who he can use cash violence against and complain about his health and age. And at the end of the day, who loses? The Liberian people do not have a fair arrangement of the people that could raise their hands to run for office. This is terrible, and this is why I have been in absolute opposition to the structure of the CPP. It is not structured correctly.
I heard you time and time again.
But Dennis, if I may add to what Paul was saying.
Sure. I just wanted to add something before. Go ahead.
The issue is, like she said, I can argue that Cummings knew that he was in a weaker position, excluding his wealth. Because ideally, you will not go and in the process and say Boykai should be his running mate. He has been vice president for 12 years. Okay? So Cummings knew that in such arrangement, he will be asked to be the running mate. I mean, one can reasonably use common sense assumption here to say Cummings knew that this would be the end game at the end of the day. He knew that. And the second thing is, like Carl said, if they were going into this, why didn't they make, I mean, even just for the sake of argument, among 4 political parties, why didn't they make it open that any partisans of the United Party can contest either primary? Since that's the case, why did they limit only to political leaders? That if someone has to be a running mate, if there is a candidate, that running mate can only be one of the political party leaders. It can't be
and Mr. Gongloe, I get that, right? You and Cole are saying what should have happened even prior. But we are at a point that we have 2 persons who everyone in the CPP agrees on should be the standard bearer, one of them. So
no, and that's the other thing, Dennis. We haven't had our primary yet.
Yeah, but
Unity Party hasn't had the primary yet. So
yeah,
if Boykai goes, what if Boykai goes against Cummings, wins? We have a primary, we select someone else. Then what?
Cole, you are just being technical on that because we already know that nobody is going to rise up in the Unity Party. There's nobody.
How do you know?
They have squashed any form of competition. So we know that the 2 of them are going head to head.
Who has squashed any form of competition?
Yeah, I will come to that. So why can we see the framework document process go ahead? Why is prevented? Because the first thing when the primary was near, the first thing was that there was an accusation that Cummings have moved the consensus date. Okay, so after consensus should be a primary. Why aren't we going into primary? Let the 2 people compete. Why can't we even have a debate between these 2 people?
Dennis, I think we've made this point over and over. The way I look at it, the CPP is actually caught in the throes of its own creation. And I think the best way out is to disintegrate. And I think they are in the process of disintegrating. That is
because they are afraid because 2 of them are afraid to compete, or Boykai is running away because Cummings is going to bribe the voters and they vote against him,
So,
let's
so
call it
Dennis,
a
let me
spade.
I don't think
Dennis,
it's, I
let
don't
me
think
ask you a
it's nice.
question.
I don't think
The
it's nice
foundation of
to
the city of
accuse
falls is
anyone
that
of bribery. Bribery is
No,
a
that's
crime.
what we continue to hear. That
Bribery
cash
is a
violence.
crime. We don't
Yeah,
want
but
to
you
accuse
continue,
anyone of bribery.
the
you
issue of
continue to
document
say cash
tampering has not
violence.
been resolved. The issue of document tampering by the ANC leader has not been resolved. We can
Because
argue
this is
no, because it was
this
not
is all
resolved.
this
What
is
the lawyer
all
said, the lawyer said they can't get into the political process.
right.
So the issue has become political.
Because
So
people want
this
to
is
tap
about
dance
they
around this
cannot,
whole
they cannot.
primary.
So
People
it
don't want to
remains
engage in primary.
unresolved.
They don't want to compete. They don't want to debate. So we have two candidates. We know two of them are going head to head. They have never debated. They have never talked about the issues. They continue to go in circles. One day we hear about black voting. The other day we hear something else.
But Dennis, at the top of the show, what do we say? We say these institutions, these political parties
Are all
have
undemocratic.
no history of being democratic. I mean, they're not democratic. You have one political leader who is the political leader until death, like, Comrade Gongloe said. It's correct. So you've had time and time and again, the history of modern Liberian political parties has been that there is this one political leader who is the political leader prior to election, during election. That political leader is the standard bearer. And, if he or she loses, goes back to political leader. This is how it has been. It has never changed. It's not a democratic institution. And so what is unfolding before our eyes now is really not a surprise. And meanwhile, it's the Liberian people that are going to continue to suffer. Because right now we're not talking about ideology. They're not disagreeing on any kind of ideology because there's none. They have not communicated to us what they're going to do differently from George Weah. And that is my biggest concern. So other than all of this stuff that we're talking about, we expected this. But it is the Liberian people, it is the Republic of Liberia that's going to suffer at the end of the day. So I think that's where now we should advance this discussion.
I can add this.
It is already a done deal. These guys are not going to come together.
I know you want to move on, but let me share with your audience. All of the thing is,
after you, Mr. Kunney will have the last word.
All of the panelists here, we are more or less, we all agree that political parties in Liberia are so undemocratic. And I can tell you this. They don't even pass their constitution to their members. Look, you can challenge.
They don't even agree on the constitution.
Let me tell you, you can call, whether it's United Party, whether it's ALP, or whether it's LP, you can pick a county chair, in fact, a random of any of the political party in Liberia and ask them, do you have a copy of your party constitution? What are your rights under our constitution? They will tell you they've not seen it. The rights in the political parties are usually bestowed and guaranteed and protected for the Monrovia-based activists, not those who are based in the rural area. I can tell you that. I was part of a team. We've tested this in Liberia, and because when I work in other places, we tested this, and I was like, what? Regional leaders don't even know what their rights are in their own party constitution, and they only there to chant and organize to receive the party officials from the capital. That's all they have to do. That's our rule. And the scene is in Liberia. I can tell you that.
Thank you. Mr. Kunney, I want you to have this last word on this topic. So besides the one-round theory, where you think this, the implosion of the CPP, where you think it's going? Hold on, Mr. Kunney.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, because
let nobody hear him.
You put in another data on his phone, Dennis.
But by the way, Mr. Kunney is calling from Monrovia, where data is normally harmonized, and we recommended him to go on LU campus for
Dennis,
the free
Wi-Fi. You putting data on his phone. We got to talk about that too.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Mr. Kunney, just the last word on this on the CPP, so we can go to the president's message.
Explosion that you find in a CPP, it is precisely my resentment against the intelligentsia. They don't conduct themselves to give themselves entitlement. It is the entitlement that I resent. I don't resent education. education. But for you to feel that because you are educated, so you are entitled. It is that entitlement mentality that I'm resisting. Even in their failures, even in their disorganization, even in their anarchy, even in their inability together, they still feel entitled.
And you think education has anything to do with it?
Leadership. Yeah, because they feel educated, so they are entitled. If you're not educated, you do that, they denounce you, they demonize you, they castigate you. But because they come from a certain school, because they can speak in a certain way, because they can interact socially in a certain way, they think that they are entitled. My resentment is not towards education.
But Dennis, we can't allow Mr. Kunney.
Hold on, Mr. Gongloe.
Look, I'd like to ask Mr. Kunney, does that behavior also extend to how you behave as a class, as a member of the intelligentsia?
They do that without even admitting their failures, without even an apology for their failure.
And you are including yourself in the intelligentsia, isn't it? That's what Gongloe is asking.
I've already told you I'm a grassroots.
Okay, we'll comment.
Grassroots governance in
All
this
right.
country. I'm a member of the grassroots.
Thank you.
The implosion you're talking about will give it has strengthened the foundation, the condition for a one-round electoral victory by the Congress for democratic change in this country.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kunney. So we'll go to comments, but before we'll go to some comments here. But before that, we want to tell you that this is Focus on Liberia Tough Talking Thursday, and Mr. Sherif is not talking tough.
Yeah,
Sherif is not well.
You call it you call it resource. What do you call it resource?
But let's take this time to listen. At the beginning of the show, we played the president's Christmas message. So that was part 1 of the president's Christmas message. We're going to play part 2. Take a listen.
Don't make it too long now, Dennis.
The president's Christmas message, you say it shouldn't be long?
Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new king's born today. A man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day. Hey, my Christmas oil, my Christmas oil, yeah, my Christmas oil, yeah, my Christmas oil, yeah, yeah, my Christmas, can't say your Christmas, my Christmas on you too. Yeah, Merry Christmas and God bless your Liberian people. Yeah, enjoy your Christmas.
Mr. Kunney.
Yeah.
That's part 2 of President Weah's Christmas message. President Weah is noted for using his pulpit at the Fokeklong Church and also his recording studio to communicate sometimes policy messages to the Liberian people. This is not out of the ordinary. What's your take?
Look, Dennis, I don't know why even this is an issue for discussion. The president is being very trying to give a license of humor for the holiday season. You play the president's official speech, Christmas message, holiday message, where he called the Liberian people to love one another, love your neighbor. That is the official speech to the nation.
Okay.
The president is trying to be a little bit, share some laughter here, make some fun, and all of a sudden now he has become this political hullabaloo all over the place. Oh, the president this and that. And many things said against this president. That people say, oh, the president can dance, the president can sing. Do you know that there is an analysis of the 5 most dancing presidents in Africa, and even though you have me on that list, the 5 most dancing presidents in Africa. You have the Ghanaian president as number 1. You have Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africa. You have Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe. You have Kianta. You know, I mean, every little thing they bought. And sometimes, I think sometimes it can be delivered. I believe But then when
Thank
you're
you.
being quiet for some time, you want Mayor to talk. The man is being, trying to share phone with a supporter and
All right.
everything. And we can discuss it FOL.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it.
Thank you. So, Cole, go ahead, discuss it.
So this trying to act like this is some kind of joke. The president is our public face, not only nationally but globally, right? He is the embodiment. He is the physical embodiment of our nation. Nobody forced him into this role. This role comes with responsibility, and leadership comes with a certain standard of dignity that you must have and conduct yourself with. When you're the president, you shouldn't be drunk in public. When you're the president, you should not be, doing things that you don't want fellow citizens to emulate. You shouldn't be publicly and openly womanizing. You shouldn't be doing things that you don't want society to emulate. You are not only a representation of a standard of conduct for individuals that you lead, right? But you also are a cultural representation of our people to the world. So you must conduct yourself in a manner that brings dignity not only to the office you hold, but to the people that you represent. And you are not at liberty when you take on such a role as president of the Republic of Liberia to make a fool of yourself, because it is not yourself as an individual that you are making a fool of. It is the presidency of the oldest republic on the continent of Africa. This is not, he doesn't have that kind of freedom that you and I have. If I get up and I sing karaoke on Facebook, nobody cares, because I do not command and control a nation. I am not representing anyone but my household. And the only people that will really be embarrassed are my husband and my children. But you are representing 5 million human beings. I don't appreciate the buffoonery. And for you to say, people, let him. He doesn't represent us what we call native people either. Because, you want a man to act like one Congo president. No, I want him to conduct himself with the dignity of Didwo Twek. Let him conduct himself with the dignity of other great people. Indigenous Liberian people are not buffoons. Our traditional leaders take responsibility of leadership with all seriousness. They don't make fools of themselves. In the interior, the guy who puts on stilts and dances to entertain people is not the guy who occupies the seat of wisdom. That is not the person that people go to and say, we have this problem we need solved. This is not the person who directs the country, right? Or the community. So you have to be one or the other. And when you took on the role, Mr. President, of being president, you have an obligation to conduct yourself with dignity at all times. We do not need the buffoonery. Feel free to do that after you leave office. But while you occupy that seat with the seriousness that it commands. That's all we ask. And honestly, Mr. Kunney, the tone and the slurring of speech in my song, I start to wonder. It looks to me, and it brings suspicion of other things that could be going on. Because for a man of that age to conduct himself that way, even when you're not president, unless you're in a comedy house or something, it should raise some red flags. If a head of household, if someone's husband, just an ordinary person's husband, behave that way and put that kind of thing on Facebook, they would probably try to get their husband a psych evaluation. So y'all thinking this is a joke. It's not a joke. This is very serious. I'm concerned. Where's Clark? Where are you? You're not checking your husband?
Thank you.
I was talking tough. Let me
go to Mr. Gongloe. There are, someone would say Bill Clinton played the saxophone. President Turbulence used to dance zipote. And the list goes on. The president is having fun. The president is wishing his people in his true, as Mr. Kunney would say, grassroots self, is wishing our people happy New Year, Merry Christmas. And what we say in Liberia, my Christmas on you, that's exactly what he's doing. What's wrong with that?
look, Dennis, I think Cole said a lot. I don't intend to repeat some of the things. But, there's a context. You see, if you talk about President Clinton playing the saxophone, the late President Wilmot Turbo dancing zibote, I mean, there was a context, and I'm sure there was a particular occasion and time that it was appropriate for that to be displayed. But that put the situation in Liberia today in a context. I agree, it's a Christmas season, it's a festive season, but the last time I checked the poverty index for Liberia is a very poor country. I think we ran 174 or what? Yes. A very poor country. Okay, so
did you say because you're hungry, I'm gonna eat?
No, it's a very poor country. So we have a situation. There's a grave situation brewing now in Liberia, and President Weah is aware of that. You have a president that has decided to mortgage the mineral sector of Liberia to one Indian company. For what? Up to 2049. A company that has still 10 years, almost 10 years on a contract. They want, because they found a country at its weaker point to say, we can extend and get all of, they want to get even the railroad, the Port of Buchanan, everything to ArcelorMittal. Yeah, and the attention mounting in Buchanan, in Bon County, in Nimba, and you have a president making fun. Look, I can empathize with him because I grew up in the village. I never knew what they call Christmas. I never even saw Santa until I would say maybe I came to Monrovia. Even in Monrovia, I didn't even see Santa, probably in the US. So he's like me, who missed out the opportunity in our youth to have fun, and he's having fun while he's president. That is a disastrous part of it, and that's the way I'm actually disappointed that he will choose to relay the opportunity that all of us missed when we're young, when we're in our youthful age in the villages, and he didn't have to do that. Because he's the president, he's a standard in the country. He's the one people emulate. If he start to drink, young people will start to drink. If he start to womanize, young people will start to womanize. If he becomes corrupt, all the ministers will be corrupt. Everything President Weah does is what he will do. If he becomes gay, young people will start to be gay. If he becomes bisexual, young people will become bisexual.
Where are you going with this thing, Mr. Gongloe?
I just want to be very provocative. That's all.
There are many reasons you can disagree with the president, you can disagree with the government, but to become this desperate because of the jovial Christmas message after the president had executed his official function, the president official function that he executed at the executive mansion, the mansion that 12 years of unity party led work, and he's refurbishing the mansion, is now becoming a working facility, and for people to go on this tangent that everything has fallen apart because the president said one jovial Christmas message is the biggest sabotage that I've seen ever on this platform.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Sherif. Mr. Sherif, President Tubman used to, dress, with chalk and even join the global dance. President Tubman dance talker. What's wrong with President Weah reaching us in a grassroots manner? They say he speaks the language the people understand. Over probably 90% of the people are at this level of education.
That's so insulting.
So that's the level. That's the level he had to communicate with his people. What's wrong with that?
Are we stupid? Dennis. Who are these people he insulting like this?
No, he's singing. He's wishing.
He already certified the craving of the intelligentsia through his former speech.
Hold on.
So let me ask you, Kunney, so you in your mind, you think that the average Liberian is going to be receptive to this type of, this is so insulting. And I hope I see these people, I'm listening to this. if you get up and have a drunken outburst and you tell me that this is what we like, this is who we are, and you're trying to communicate with me, it's offensive. It's offensive. Where you see like when people conducting themselves like that, we have dignity, not because we're a poor country means that we don't respect ourselves. We don't have dignity.
No, Cole, I'm saying
we need to be clowned like this in order to be communicated with or related to. Is that what we're saying?
No, Cole, I mean, we can understand different ways.
That's disrespectful.
Mr. Sherif, what's about Omen
Poverty doesn't mean you stupid.
So Dennis, what you show right there is a clown show, and there's a way in which you perform, but you don't overdo these things, and I think that's why the other panelists are saying, that's what they're speaking to. And Carl mentioned the president doesn't have the luxury that some of us have, right? We're not presidents of the Republic of Liberia. If I were president of the Republic of Liberia, certain things I don't do. Certain things are beneath the president of the Republic of Liberia, a nation of 5 million people or more. The other day, it was the president showing off in his hybrid race car motorcycle called the Slingshot, right? I mean, he was showing off on that, and that was in social media all over the place. That is not something the president of the Republic of Liberia needs to do. Dennis, this country has hit a lot of lows. This is one of the lows. This president is the world best player in 1995, a proud moment for all Liberians, certainly for all Black people around the world, regardless of where you were at this moment. People are going to be asking themselves, where were you when, Weah won the if you were alive, where were you when he won the world best player of the year? Because that was a proud moment for all of us. But Dennis, this president, since he came to office, the Liberian Lone Star is one of the worst teams in African soccer now. They can't represent Africa at the African Cup of Nations. Certainly cannot go to the World Cup. And yet you have the world best player of the year as president of the Republic of Liberia. Mm-hmm. You have the president of the Republic of Liberia.
Is it that performance that's stopping him from performing his duties?
Dennis, he's occupied with a lot. This president is very promiscuous, and we can talk about that all night. This is a president who has he has a lot of freedom to roam around, and I don't know how he gets that freedom. I mean, his romantic indiscretion is just degrading to the office of the presidency, and that is something that the Liberian people don't even talk about much, because somehow that is celebrated. But that's not acceptable to me. This president parties a lot. The president goes to other countries. President goes to Ghana unannounced. Dennis, can you imagine the president flying to Ghana unannounced to visit a significant other? Can you imagine the president?
That's not rumor.
Can you imagine the president flying to Nigeria unannounced? I mean, these are things. The list goes on and on and on, and it's beneath the office of the presidency, and it's embarrassing to not just Liberians, but it's embarrassing to us Black people. The people are laughing at us. Dennis, this is serious. They are laughing. People are laughing at us at this time. Because what? Paul said it. Dennis, the president is a representation of that country. He should be the role model, but he's not modeling himself very well for the Liberian people. And so that is a concern to me. And that is something that we need to talk about. Hopefully he's going to hear these things and make some changes.
We got 20 more minutes left. We want to take
I hope you make it less than that.
Yeah, hold on, Mr. Kunney. We gotta we got to move on because we have not read comments. So we're gonna take a short break, and after that we'll bring comments. But remember to send money to Liberia, use Kunney Cash. Kunney Cash, you can download the app in your Google Play Store or your Apple Store. Kunney Cash is safe, legal, and easy way to send money to your family members in Liberia. At this time, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to read your comments.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. At this time, we're going to go to our viewers' comment. This one from Leonard Perkins. He's a member of ANC Global. He said, "Call. I would like to understand your assertion that Cummings is using cash violence. Do you have any evidence of such? If you do, please present the evidence. Otherwise, please desist because you are undermining his character." Akina Wesley said, "Good point, Carl. Kunney is not helping his Weah in an orgy of insanity." Comrade Wesley love to use colorful words. Orgy of insanity. Talking about this, Weah, he said, on this one, Dave Jah writes, "I think Weah was trying to cheer up his people. I have no criticism for his humor at Christmas." Say, Waukee song, "Why Judge Weah playing fun out of Liberian people? This man is not serious in any way. I know he was under the influence of alcohol." That's another allegation right there. Mr. Kunney is not taking that lightly. Emmanuel Simpson, "The last time the president was playing Ludo, he was criticized by you oppositions. Few weeks later, we saw VP Boakai playing checkers. They don't criticize the president of playing drum. The next thing we know, we saw him playing drum at his house. You guys are just greedy and wicked." Rackles, "The musician president is clueless and insensitive to what Liberians are going through. He continued to desecrate the office of the president." I saw one, Sam Wallow, "You folks need to stop. Dennis, take hold of your show. When George Bush visited Liberia and danced wildly offbeat and out of sync with the cultural troupe, was he embarrassing the citizens of the United States?" Mr. Gongloe, you spoke to that earlier. Anthony C.A. say, "Mr. Sherif always make comments about the president traveling and partying in other countries. Where are video evidence or proof to substantiate his claim?" Ishmael say, "You guys are denigrating the presidency. You people don't speak with grace to your president." Call, most of these things mention you. I want you to start.
I just one that mentioned Call.
There is one here that mentioned me too. I'm trying to find it.
So the ANC people, the hypocrisy is always, going on and saying how Cummings is rich, everybody else is broke. We got the most money, we the richest party, everybody broke. Then when you say that people are using cash violence, then they get vexed. So what are money being used for? They're not campaigning, they're not spending it. That's what cash violence means. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't go around in a country that's impoverished and talk about how rich your political leader is and how extremely, broke everyone else is, constantly bragging about this. It's sickening. Oh, they don't have this. They ain't got party headquarters. Oh, they don't have that. Oh, we got a richest party. Oh, look at Cummings building. And then you say you're not using cash violence. Y'all get up from here, man. Carry that conversation somewhere else. We all see what happens. The other thing is, I think I've already thoroughly addressed my opinion about, Weah. I don't think it's comparable in any way, shape, or form to what Bush did, or even to his drum playing. I remember seeing some video sometime of him playing drum and singing the crew fight song, the crew football song. I thought that was great. I enjoyed that, to be honest with you. And I don't think that was at all, degrading. It was a cultural, exhibition, and he actually played the drum pretty well. There is a huge difference between that and the slurred speech, the mispronunciation, the misrepresentation of the lyrics of a song. He sounded, it was horrible. It was horrible. The people around him, the handlers, should not have allowed that to get out. But him sitting somewhere with his wife and beating drum, you would have never seen me criticize. In fact, I shared that on my Facebook page a couple of years back when that happened. So if you don't understand the difference, that's your problem.
Let me read a few comments and then I'll bring you in, Mr. Gongloe. He said, my solution is let both Cummings and Bouaka go to each county, let the citizens vote for who should be standard bearer for CPP. Samuel Ngovo here, that's Dr. Samuel Ngovo. Mr. Kunney, this one is for you. He said, Weah would never appoint Kunney minister or ambassador. Keep on fighting.
That's not nice. He already got
Williet Domba, is Ellen
Mr.
back?
Kunney is qualified, though. Mr.
She
Kunney
needs
is
to
qualified.
go sit down now. All she can do is to embalm a country she played a big part in critically crippling. See, Ellen is trying to embalm the country. Samuel Ngovo also say the CDC boys are angry for CPP disintegration because CDC was quoting Musa Bility and ANC to act like Trojan horses in the CPP. More of Fufana said JNB failure to address the infighting in the CPP demonstrates his lack of leadership. Liberia's political environment is hostile and there will always be internal conflict. GNB cannot keep running away from his responsibilities and later shift blames on others. Mr. Gongloe, what you say to that?
Well, like I said, the CPP was designed to fail from the very beginning. So it is actually disintegrating. It's a bad product.
Yeah.
What was meant to be, and I'm not surprised, and I don't think any student of history of political parties in Liberia should actually be surprised, by this. But I just wanted to make a quick comment on the question of President Weah, other display of his talent. There is no doubt that President Weah is a very talented guy. I mean, he plays soccer very well. I was one of his, ardent followers. If I still watch his old skill on YouTube whenever I have the time, there's no doubt about that. He's an extremely gifted person. He sings well, but the presidency, you can choose a time as to when to display that skill. You can't go, okay, if you have to sing probably the Christmas carol, whatever, very well, the way it should be, probably there will be no concern about it.
Exactly.
But he decided to denigrate even the song, to desecrate the song itself. And that's part of in the voice that someone who drinks liquor can probably identify with. And that's part of the concern, and that's bringing disgrace to the office of the presidency. Okay? So
are you suggesting the president sounded drunk in that song?
He did. I don't drink liquor though, but I mean, I know he did. So I think that's part of the concern, and nobody should we love our country. We love the presidency. I mean, I respect the presidency, I mean, I have nothing against President Weah. He's not taking personally anything away from me, I mean, but he's taking something away from my country. And by that, he's shaming me. He's embarrassing me every single day with his lack of leadership, with his poor judgment, because he promised us that he is not going to give a very good speech, but he's going to make a very good decision. And I think it has just been from one disastrous decision to another one. You know, every single month, President Weah is making a disastrous mistake that is taking down the country on the path of collapse.
Yeah, thank you.
We have new variant of the coronavirus coming. We thought even on Christmas Day, in his message, that is what he should be addressing.
He mentioned something on the corona, but
did he mention a new variant from South Africa?
Crisco Masalese, I feel so ashamed to be called a Liberian at this point in time. This is the lowest we have ever come as a country. We brought shame and disgrace to this country by electing a buffoon and nincompoop as president. Sad. Sam Wallow is asking me for video, and then Leonard Perkins was asking about, I didn't find the comments there, but it was saying that I said Cummings was, is bribing. But Mr. Perkins, what I was saying is this is what people believe in the Unity Party, that Mr. Bwaka is afraid because Cummings is going to bribe voters to vote for him. That's why. So I was quoting what people thought, playing the devil advocate here. But if I did not accuse Cummings of bribery.
But ANC activists themselves have said that though, that they have more cash, and they want to go to the primary. They said that, they boasted of it.
Mr. Sherif, we are almost out of time. So quickly, you have 1 minute here for these comments to respond.
Yeah, Dennis. So when you criticize the president of Liberia, you have paid agents of the status quo who come after you with everything they have. But that's not going. That shouldn't deter us from taking on the challenges of pointing out the ills of this administration. And I see this as a civil duty, as a patriotic duty, to point out the things that are going on wrong, and to sort of say this is good and more can be done here. So what we're doing here on this show, Dennis, is actually a service to the Republic of Liberia. I hope that the president, if he's not watching, I hope that some of his advisors watch the show so that they can learn some things. There's a deficit of leadership right now in Liberia at the national level, at local level, at all levels. And so they can learn from this. One of the things that good leaders do is, if you have a shortage somewhere, George Weah, we all know that he's adequate in a lot of areas, but you have to surround yourself with good people. There are not many around him that can tell him what needs to be done. And I think that's the problem. So you have everybody, from our own colleague, Mr. Kunney, to the Minister of State, everybody is telling him how wonderful he is. And so he's not going to change. He's not going to change because the advisors themselves are enabling this man to do the thing that he's doing now. If Mr. Kunney, whom I love, Mr. Kunney, whom I trust as someone who is an intellectual, part of the intelligentsia, if he can't even stand up and say the president is wrong here and there, then who is going to? So that is a real concern to me. And I hope that Mr. Kunney is also listening to me.
He's listening. He's done quite well. Almost 2 hours, and his data is still strong. Leonard Perkins said, Dennis, I find you to be a respectable talk show host, but it is irresponsible to suggest that Cummings will bribe delegates for vote. I'm not saying that's the news everywhere, Mr. Perkins. Mr. Kunney, I need to give you an opportunity also to respond to the comment. 1 minute, sir. We're almost out of time.
Look, listen, as I always said, if the only thing the opposition has against George Weah are all these superficial stuff, then I think the CDC is in a very strong position.
For the one-round victory.
We are in a very strong position for the one-round victory. Listen, you're talking about the president desecrating the office of the president. Who has desecrated the office of the president more than Ellen Johnson, Sherif, and Joseph Human Weah? Those two people stand there and burn the executive mansion, and burn the executive mansion, turn it to a corruption cash cow, It is taking George Weah the opportunity to rebuild, to restore the dignity of our executive presidency, and people are now going in and doing. Are you talking about desecration? We're talking about desecration when Jose Yuma Boyka and Ellie Johnson Sirleaf sat in office and the entire Hotel Africa was scrapped right under their nose. I think to say there was no government in Liberia. Duke of Palace International Hotel was scrapped right under their nose. You're talking about desecration? The Latino people know desecration when they see it.
Yeah. And
I continue to maintain that, look, there are serious things going on here. The road constructions are going, the community roads that I talk about were in America. I'm benefiting from them now. I'm going places a little bit faster, despite the major traffic arteries in other places. I mean, the Rubber International Airport Road is under construction.
Did you go to Kawada?
Hold on. What we know is that there is nothing George Weah will do that will satisfy the intelligentsia. They've already ruled him out. He's not yet president. He was not supposed to be president. His election is accident. It's an accident of history.
Thank you, sir.
Come 2023, we are going to prove that George Weah's election was never an accident. That George Weah will deliver for this country. He will do things that they never did in their 42 years so-called experience. You talk about desecration. You bring the executive mansion, you have found out, hey, he has been restored. The president will be moving there next year. And you think we're going to turn it over and give it to somebody who went in and left it and use it as a corruption cash out for the entire 12 years of the presidency? It's never going to happen. The Liberian people are not stupid.
Thank you. This brings us to our last session.
It's too late, baby. Go to bed. I don't need your tabata. Baby, oh, your tabata. I gotta go away. Your tabata. My baby, oh, I don't need your tabata.
Tabata in Southeastern language is nonsense, complete foolishness. Tabata, nonsense. So at this time, we're going to go around the room for your Tabata of the week. Mr. Kunney, let's start with you.
Hold on, I already said my Tabata. I don't want to repeat myself. The fact that people can give mental health diagnosis to a presidential tumor is the greatest Tabata that I've seen here.
Mr. Sherif.
It's going back to the Liberty Party leader who has suspended or is stating that she's suspending the Constitution and she's appointing her own chairman, thereby creating this sort of division, all because she suspended because she didn't pay her dues. So just pay your dues and then you can work some other things out. So to me, that should be the biggest Tabata of the week.
Mr. Gongloe.
Well, my Tabata of the week, I may say the greatest Tabata so far would be Mr. Wilmot Kunney, the man with a master's degree. President George Weah, a president with a master's degree. In fact, he's counted among the 10 most educated presidents in Africa, that they would decide to classify others who disagree with them as intelligentsia, and they themselves are the grassroots. They are the ones who represent the masses. For me, it does not make sense to me in the crude language.
Call?
Yeah, I would have to say, the greatest Tabata of the week is the Liberian, the diaspora, and when I say diaspora, I'm talking about Liberian diaspora, the African diaspora, people who went to Liberia recently and saw that the country was extremely filthy. And one of them made a YouTube video describing the filth and disgust that he saw, and basically spent about an hour lecturing Liberians on how disturbed he was at the conditions of the country, and how when you are sitting in filth for long enough, you no longer even notice you're sitting in filth. That was extremely painful for me, but the Tabata was a response of Liberian people trying to defend that situation and not taking that as a wake-up call. We are inviting people to our house, and our house is dented. We're inviting people to our home, and our home is in disarray. It's not even safe, it's not even clean. So many things, and it pains me. Providence Island is dirty. Our great monuments, the graveyard of all of the people that established the Republic, there are Zogos living there. It is upside down. Headstones have been decimated. Nothing has been repaired or prepared for the welcoming of these people. We're only looking at, let that guy spend their money. They're not going to sit down to Providence Hotel. They're not going to sit down to Cinco. They're going to want to go see historical sites. The historical sites are upside down. And so the greatest avatar for me this week is a realization that nothing in preparation to receive the people that we've invited.
Thank you so much, Cole. And your audio there was kind of right, so you probably need to fix that so we can get you.
Sorry. Okay.
All right. So for me, my Tabata of the week is this culture of political singing and dancing, right? We saw long back President Weah dancing zombie. We saw later on, Mr. Kunney dancing yo, hurting them. And then now with the trouble in the Liberty Party, what do we see? We see first it started with this one. And then came this one.
I didn't know the one is over. Normally did that after her husband, when she came back from mourning for her husband. I think that's
so we find that people are, so this is how people are doing their own dances, but then they are using these dances to communicate their political messages. So someone will pose and say, hey, we need the rule of law. And another person will pose and say, hey, this other one. So to me, my biggest tabata here is, I'm asking myself, is this what our political discourse has come to? People using dances to communicate political messages? To me, that's complete tabata. All right. So at this time, we'll go around the room now. Thank you so much for all of you for coming tonight. Let's see what's coming up. Always remember, every Friday is our literary hour. This comes on every Friday at 6 p.m. with Jackie Sayed and Professor K. Moses Namwe. On Saturday, we're going to have FOL Marketplace. FOL Marketplace, the topic, growth without liquidity, the printing of the new banknotes. Then on Sunday, we're going to talk about corruption and human rights. My guest, Councillor James N. Bodier, that's the former chairman of the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission, LACC, and Mr. Alex Coffey, he's the former director of the FIU, that's the Financial Intelligence Unit. You don't want to miss it. Again, thank you so much for coming. Let's go around the room and get your closing comment. We'll start with Mr. Kunney, who's on the line from Monrovia. Mr. Kunney, where are you located in Monrovia?
I'm somewhere around the Yeyia corridor.
Okay, what's wrong with
President Weah house?
What's wrong with Newtown?
I left Newtown when I was probably a kid.
Okay, go ahead. Let's get your parting comment, sir.
I mean, again, we had a very good discussion. It was good that I came on the ground. There are a lot of observations here. The Coalition for Democratic Change is heading for a one-round victory. There are a couple of things they have to do. Their only enemy is their own internal dissension. If they can maintain internal coalition, there is nothing on the opposition that can defeat the CDC. There are a lot of challenges in Liberia. I talk about the exercise of privileges without responsibility. You find that by some people here in the country, that has left some things undone. Things that are supposed to be done are not being done. But by and large, the government is making effort to fulfill its obligation. The community rules here are impressive from each community, whether it is the Yeyia side, it is looking down, it is Banner's Way, it is Ghana's Way, it's making traveling a little bit easier. They need to construct a few more roads to kind of alleviate the traffic problem in the country. The Yeyia, the Robertsfield road corridor would be a major boost for the people of Monrovia, and it would be a good thing to be done. It will also alleviate the traffic in this corridor. I mean, people are in the market, people are selling goods all over the place. I mean, the usual thing about money not in the bank, we're not hearing that this season. ATM machines are all operational. So, I mean, when it comes to the bread and butter, the daily activity of the people, they are doing that. And so I think that a sustained effort in these kind of activities, continue the infrastructure development. Electricity is expanding in Monrovia. More people are getting pipe on water in Monrovia. All of these things are happening. But the challenges there are massive to the point where sometimes you don't even see these kind of progress. Especially people who on the other side, but if you speak to ordinary people, you will see the expansion of these services, how to get on a little gradual but increasing level.
Thank you. James David say Matabata is the president's Christmas song. Mr. Gongloe, your parting comments.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. This has been a very good show. I hope to come back again, probably on another Thursday. But there are two things I'd like to just drive through quickly. Firstly, I know the president gave his Christmas message at a well-organized program. But that message, if you juxtapose that with his Christmas mute or song, he stepped over that message. He made something, distasteful that has become the subject of discussion as opposed to his Christmas message. That's one observation. And the second observation I'd like to make is, let's go back to the crisis in Liberty Party. There are two forces that are competing for dominance. Let's consider Charlene Bronson's call. She called for the return to the rule of law in the Liberty Party. And I will still conclude and maintain that I listen to Charlene Bronson. If she's going to watch this video, if she's going to listen to this show, it's time she step forward to take over the Liberty Party as a political leader. And my last parting comment would be the whole argument about intelligentsia. Wilmot Kunney and the handful of intelligentsia within the mass-based movement, which is the CDC, are more or less exploiting the ignorance of the young people in the CDC, who form the basis of the foundation of the CDC. So the last time I checked, he's now a masses. President Weah, he's a millionaire. So he's not, there is no body who is a mass, who belongs to the masses class, who is a millionaire. No one like that, okay? When we check Lula da Silva in Brazil, Fidel Castro, these guys, they could argue that they belong to the masses because they have no fat bank account anywhere. They have no, President Weah is awash with several bank accounts since he became president. Look at his material possession. Look at Wilmot Kunney's material possession. Is that the possession of our masses? So he's actually playing a game here. He's misleading. This is a classic animal farm situation.
Thank you. First, James David also saying, okay, let's get another Tabata here. Dave Jai saying, my Tabata is Charlene Bronson's genius in hindsight. She does not solve the problem, but just highlighted the obvious. To call your closing comments.
I just want to tell everybody that, this is the time of year.
Call your audio is still not fixed.
It's not fixed? Okay, yeah. Let me see. If it can't work, then that's it. Can you hear me a little better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a tiny bit.
So basically, what I was trying to say is it's the time of year that we need to focus on our families, what we do have. I know what it's like to, not necessarily have what you would expect at this time of year. I know a lot of people back home are going through hardship because my phone doesn't stop ringing. And I just want everybody to focus on the things that are important. Your family members, your health, hug your children. If that just one meal y'all share the meal, and take the time to love one another and to think about the blessings that we have. There's always something to be hopeful for. We still have our sovereignty. We still have our country. We still have our families. And I want everybody to remember that there is no country without a family unit. So the family unit that comes together to bond over a meal, over a conversation, is the fundamental building block of a nation. We need to fight for our families. Those families are what make up our communities. Those communities are what make up our nation. And if we focus on that family, getting yourself right in your home, teaching your children values, that's how we're going to fix Liberia. I hope over this next Christmas holiday, whatever your religion or your faith is, take that day off to acknowledge your family and strengthen that bond that builds, that is the building block of Liberia. It is extremely important. And I think I want to also congratulate Sekou Kolasco, who I always tease on social media, but I'm very proud of you. Getting married and starting a family is something that we need to be encouraging among our young people, not just politics. This is very important. I can't emphasize it enough, but congratulations to you and your bride. Congratulations to all the young people who are doing the right thing and starting a family unit to help to build our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sherif.
Yeah, Dennis, over a year ago, I wrote something on China, the invasion of the Chinese into Africa. And my topic was the Chinanization of Africa. You could say the same thing now about Liberia. So when George Weah became president, one of the things that was circling around was, that China was Ghana. I think one of the West African countries was borrowing loan from Ghana, and that Liberia was incapable of getting the same amount of loan. So what happened was George Weah also went to China and begged the Chinese for money. So they also gave him a loan. I want to see a time where our leaders are not borrowing money because there's money in Liberia. Liberia is actually wealthy. Stop borrowing. Stop coming to the United States and begging the Americans for money. Stop going to China and begging the Chinese for money. You genuflect at their table. You get their crumbs, and now they go over there and they actually laugh at us and they insult us. Right? They laugh at us. So let's stop doing that. Our leaders should stop doing that. I look forward to a day where the president will actually dedicate a speech to the economy. I look forward to a day where the president will dedicate a speech to national security. I look forward to a day where the president will dedicate a speech to healthcare, a speech to good governance, a speech to all of the different things in Liberia. Right? So I look forward to that time where our president will be very communicative. Right, very expressive, not dancing and singing and whatnot. So I look forward to that day. If that president is George Weah, so be it. If it's not George Weah, come 2023, whoever occupies that executive mansion should be very communicative, should convey their vision to the Liberian people every single day, because this is how this nation of 5 million people will be one of the leaders in Africa.
Thank you. I hope you listen to the president's sermons also at the Fokekron Church, because there he
How do you pronounce that?
He kind of communicates some of these messages. Why?
How do you pronounce the name of the church?
Fokekron.
Fokekron.
Ishmael Rahim said, my tabata is why all the talk show hosts that promoted DeLong and Senator Lawrence that they party constitution wrong. And if they don't, they should not come to our platform. I'm not sure I understood that. And one comment here I want to read, this one, Mr. Gongloe, is for you. It said, it's asking me if He said, Dennis, is your guest the brother of Tiawan Gongloe? If so, he should self-disclose.
Oh.
But I made a disclaimer before the start of this
The
show.
people look the same.
that what I express here represent my own view and not.
You said of your sister. Now they're asking for Councillor Tiawan Gongloe, not Edith Gongloe.
But you look.
Oh yeah, Sam. I'm Councillor Gongloe, youngest. In fact, I'm the last boy child in the family. I'm the 5th child in my family. A family of 9. If
Thank
nothing
you.
though, we are six. I have 9 siblings. We are 9 siblings. And I'm the 5th.
Yeah, no, 4 of them. Mr. Perkins is asking you, call. Please bring your intellect to the CPP and the ANC, and let's work together to transform our nation. Mr. Perkins, you run a campaign on my show. All right. I want to thank you all for coming. I mean, it's been always good to talk tough on Thursday, and I really appreciate your time. It is not easy after work to hear and do this service to the Liberian people. I appreciate that. I want to also appreciate our viewers for always being here and watching the show with us. I see Mr. Kunney, even in spite of the rosy picture he's painting in Monrovia, he was not able to connect, the way yet. He's able to
mind that man. You mind him?
And the road he talk about, still he can't get to Kamala,
right. Don't mind that man.
We still can get to Sino, so that's it. But we want to thank all of you. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Labrador, we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Take care, everyone.
Again, we end with our song that says, we are all Liberians.
Maybe Wilmot could sing one Christmas song.
The man can sing.
Have a good night, folks.
Yeah, Lima.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.